Alright, this is going to be, this time, one of my games. I've just not been able to find any really good pro replays lately that aren't horribly outdated. So this is just an interesting demonstration of a couple of tactics. So this is a Terran versus Protoss game. I'm at red Protoss bottom right corner, blue Terran bottom left corner. This was a joke based on the comic book character Deadpool, who always has yellow text boxes. Unfortunately, um, the my opponent did not ever speak to me over the course of this game, so my joke went unnoticed or simply ignored. In any case, let's just accelerate a little because this is an incredibly boring stage of the game. I 9 pylon down, 13 gate, and send out a probe to scout. So if we look at my opponent, what he's doing is, well, we can't actually see right now, but if we wait 1 second, this is when he should have just gotten one of his refineries up, but he did not. He's going for either a gasless fast expand or some weird all-in. I decided to hedge my bets on it being a gasless fast expand. You'll see that in a minute. Meanwhile, I'm getting a gateway, gas, and very soon I'll be getting a cybernetics core. I generally like to go stalker first against Terran because it allows me to get out a, well, the stalker allows you to counter Reapers and Marines very effectively. Scout his base, nothing here. Drag him back, send him down to this southern base. So my opponent already has saved up almost 400 minerals. That quickly goes down, but he's able to, what it ends up meaning is that he's able to throw down a second command center very quickly, which you'll see it appears somewhere around here. Now I'm going to move into his base. This time, it's always right around 3 minutes when the first Marine comes out. That's a very good number to know. I get attacked, I scout, I see there's no gas down anywhere, and so then I know, okay, he's going for gasless fast expand. My first reaction is take my probes off of gas. I let the probe die. If he's being remotely dedicated with the Marine doing things, then your probe can't get out, and there's no reason to waste my time when I could be doing more important things. And I cut all probe production, and I just send out my probe and start a nexus. This nexus ends up going down almost the same time as his command center, despite the fact that I started mining gas and started cybernetics core first, just because of Chrono Boost mostly. I managed to have more probes out than he has SCVs. Now I'm getting a Stalker and starting to Chrono Warp Gate. Meanwhile, he's just got a fair number of Marines at the top of the ramp. Usually what you would see is a player would put a bunker down here. He decided not to, for whatever reason, this game. Instead, he adds 2 more barracks very quickly. I was not able to scout this. This was a big fucking deal, excuse my vulgarity. Because what it means is that he's going to be trying to do some kind of timing attack. It's interesting in retrospect. Usually a player would try to set down a pair of gas much earlier. Instead, my opponent has decided to go for a big attack. Meanwhile, my expansion almost done. I've gotten up a second gas. This is because of a certain kind of playstyle I really love for this matchup. And robotics facility going down, 1 gate robo. Risky play, but it can be pretty powerful. We'll see what exactly it is I'm going for in just a minute here. Get a second stalker out. I'm just going to be using the stalker to poke up the ramp, see what he's got. I end up seeing the second gate, or no, I just barely fall shy of seeing the second barracks. I do see his orbital morphing here, so I know that, so I quote-unquote know that I was right with my scout, but I do not know that he threw up these extra 2 barracks very, very quickly. So meanwhile, I've got my 2 stalkers over here. They're just going to keep watch outside his base for whatever's going to be coming. Meanwhile, transfer probes over. I'm going to get a nice economy up. And my robotics facility is finished. This is when the interesting play happens. I'm going to get a warp prism and a robotics support bay. What this ends up meaning is Colossus drop. I've started to become a huge fan of Colossus drops against Terran, especially Terran who are starting with this kind of gasless fast expand, because what it means is that this is embarrassing. I lose both of my stalkers. They would have been very, very helpful in at least delaying this push of his. So what ends up happening is I have 1 sentry and not much else. This is not a good situation, just to be perfectly frank. I also end up getting supply blocked, which is really embarrassing. But anyway, the reason that I like these Pakistan builds, I'm going to send out a probe here to scout and make sure the attack is actually coming and he wasn't just trying to secure his expansion. I find out that yes, the attack is coming, and my instant reaction is move the sentry back, move all of my probes back, and I'm just going to sacrifice my expansion entirely. Because fortunately I start my first Colossus, otherwise this would have been really bad. So what this means is that right now I can just barely stall out for long enough to hold the ramp. Actually, if I hadn't gotten supply blocked, I would have been able to do it much easier. I think right now I can only barely manage to hold before he would be able to just break through by sheer force of marine numbers. And then my first Colossus comes out in just a second, and I will start it drops. So the reason it's so powerful is that the only thing that Terran really has to deal with speed upgraded warp prisms, we'll see one of those get into gear in just a second here, the stimmed marines are slower than speed upgrade warp prisms, so the only thing they can really do is get Vikings. And if they've gone for this kind of gaslight play like my opponent's doing, they can't have Vikings. There's no way in hell. It's not like, oh, they'd have Vikings if they really tried. No, it's they actually can't produce them. So now I move out with my warp prism. I'm going to start researching gravitic drive, and I start chrono boosting out more probes. I don't actually realize, and this is embarrassing, that there's nothing in the bunkers right now. I could have seen it if I'd liked, but I should have just pushed down the ramp and resecured my expansion right here. But it doesn't matter. So now I move in with my Colossus, and I start doing the drops. So if we look at the kills on the Colossus, they're not actually going to be all that high. The main thing is forcing a loss in mining time and meaning that he has to stay back on these bases. I'm going to attack him in just a second. This is... it's also annoying that I don't have my warp prism speed done at this time, but fortunately I managed to make up for that by sheer... whoop, here we go. Colossus got 3 kills, 8 kills, 11 kills. This is pretty brutal. So now I load back up and start flying to the south. I've got warp prism speed is finished at this point. I'm starting extended thermal lances. And I see that he's got guys already going here, so I'm just... I end up focusing on my base for a little while. This point is when I'm going to push down and reclaim my expansion, which is the correct move at this point in the game. And now, where did I leave my warp prism? Oh, this is bad timing. He ends up just killing this for no good reason. I could have saved that if I'd just been paying attention. That was a huge loss. But still, it managed to do what it needed to do, which is keep him back on this base count. And right now, he's in a bad situation because he doesn't have as many probes as he would like. If we look at unit count, he's only got, sorry, drone SCVs. Third time's the charm. 26 SCVs to my 36 probes, even though he's on more bases. The mules do help. If we look at income, he's actually ahead of me, but behind on gas. So what ends up happening is I've got these sentries out. These are going to end up being very valuable, and I just produce zealots. Because with this kind of composition, a zealot sentry colossus mix is going to be very powerful. So now I've decided that this is my timing to move out and try and do some damage before he manages to get anything like... See, he's only just starting his factory. He's not going to have a reactored starport for quite a long time. So I decide to just push out right here. He manages to see my army coming in. He does the scan. And so he moves out. This is a clever play by him because it means he gets us around. But now here's what I do in response. I manage to force field off his army so that suddenly they are trapped right by where my zealots are, and then just move in to kill everything with my colossi. Meanwhile, he's got 4 bunkers up. I could have just backed up at this point and I still would have been way ahead. Just look at the difference in supply counts. But instead I decide to push in and try to win. Now if we look at this, I'm just going to kill even more of his workers. He's doing his repair, which is annoying. It doesn't matter all that much. I end up killing most of his stuff pretty convincingly, but the important thing to remember is that at this point in the game, at any point I could have just thrown up another 2 or 3 gateways, just backed off, used force fields to secure my retreat, and I would have won. I just decided to push in for the win because I wasn't interested in playing much longer. This game at least. So now, this is going to be the end of the game. He ends up... I've got my 3rd Colossus on the way here. He manages to by just sheer brute force, attack through and kill one of my colossi. Close matter. If I'd just been paying a little more attention, I would have been able to stop that. But then he leaves the game. So the most important things about this game were, first of all, well, first and foremost, the decision to abandon my expansion. I realized that I couldn't hold it. There was no way. Let's just look back to. I believe that was around here-ish. Oh, sick. That's perfect. So if we look at the army, he has currently got a huge army compared to me. No way am I even touching that. So instead, I just pull back, let my expansion die, because right now I know that I've got only one thing going for me, which is the tech advantage. If I had had a large gateway army and nothing else, then I would have tried to hold it. But seeing as and who knows, I might have lost. But seeing as all I had was this one sentry, I knew that my only chance of survival was this little ramp. So then I use my tech. Then I'm in an army disadvantage at this point, still, but a tech advantage, so I decide to use that tech advantage to help get me back into the game. I do Colossus drops. So that is that's the second lesson. It's like if you need to make sure to use what advantages you can. Third, this is actually one of the things I did wrong. I should have kept a closer eye on these bunkers. Even if these bunkers had 2 Marines apiece, I could have just broken through with a single Guardian shield and taken back my expansion very easily. But instead I was a bit silly and was focusing too much on my drop. But then, once I had my tech advantage secured, I used that to allow myself to try and regain an army and an economic advantage. See here, I kill enough SCVs that suddenly I'm no longer in such a bad position economically. He's still a little bit ahead in terms of mineral count, but not an overwhelming force any longer. And then the final thing is, we're just going to fast forward a little bit here. I'm ahead in supply, barely. Ahead in supply, barely. It's using force fields to suddenly skew a battle massively. You see here, I was in not the greatest position, but my force fields were placed so that my colossi could just retreat and allow me to get off this incredible little attack here. And then the final lesson is, if you see you can win, sometimes it's a good idea to just go for it. That's really a case-by-case issue, because sometimes you can't actually win, and if you end up doing badly for whatever reason, then you're going to end up way behind where you were initially. But this ended up working out okay, and that was the end of the game. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and hope you learned something you can apply to your own play. That's all. Thanks.